Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. This is my studio. I'm Martin. Julie's back there busy on her own stuff back there. And in this video, I want to show you guys how I make a submersible. And this is junk building with MJ. Using nothing but recycled materials, junk that I've collected in my bins. We're going to make a wrecked submersible for the game Deep Wars. And so this is part of the deep sea project. We want to wrap that up, want to get all the terrain for that done so that that project can wrap up. So without further ado, let's go make a submersible. Okay, welcome to my craft bench here, also my sculpting bench. And I have my corals set aside, all my coral terrain and stuff. I'm going to work on that little by little later. But right now, the most important thing is I need a wrecked sub. So here are some of the materials we will use. A can, okay, just a regular Sprite can, and I have cut these squares into it. Now, before I go any further with this, I'm going to show a little bit of a safety thing to ensure that, you know, the edges here are not sharp. Please keep in mind that when you work with these cans and you're trying to cut these cans, you can get hurt if it creates sharp edges. So please be safe whenever you work with these cans. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I've learned to keep these edges from being sharp so they don't cut anybody. So the main thing is, like for some of these pieces that I'm going to be using in the debris pile, this is going to be a wrecked sub. What I do is I bend the edges very carefully, and I will wear gloves for this if I feel the need to. Bend it with the pliers and carefully then take my pliers and squish in those sides. In addition to that, we get our hot glue, which is going to be my primary glue in this project, and kind of go around. That also kind of weathers the piece, but that will ensure that these edges stay down and also ensures that there's nothing sharp. No terrain piece, no project is worth, you know, getting hurt or, you know. So there's part of the piece. You could see how once you paint all that, that will kind of look weathered and like, you know, maybe there's stuff encrusting it, algae and all this stuff, right? So we're going to put this aside. I just needed to say that. And I made sure that when I cut my can, I bent all of these edges in, okay? I may actually cut the hole a little wider because we are going to have to put markers on this, objective markers and all that. Okay, so I'm using a can for the body of the sub, okay? And then I found this old detergent plastic bottle, and so I cut the tip of it off, okay? And this actually comes off. Cut the tip of it. It was like a detergent bottle or something, washed it out. Then I took my magic marker and outlined in the can the shape of this plastic piece so I can cut the can to fit the piece. Now this is going to be the bridge of the sub, or the tower, basically. And then here's an old cap, and I'm going into my junk bin for all this, and the cap fits quite nicely there, and that's going to be the little, we can have a little hatch there. We will put a periscope and all that mast probably coming from here. And then for the tail, because this is a small submersible. For the tail, I use another plastic bottle, and I cut this, the neck of it up, and then it fits perfectly on the rim of the can, and then there we have our basic sub shape, okay? So this is going to be something humans build, probably for the Fortune Seekers faction, right? So it's going to be a wrecked sub. Now for the front and the nose piece of the submersible, I'm using the bottom of a juice bottle. So here is an example of this bottom here with that nice kind of indentation. And so I cut it up, cut off the bottom, and use that as the front of my submersible. Okay, and here are all the little windows and such. So we're going to try and, if we can, by all means, keep those windows clear. That's what we're going to try to do. Now for the ring here, I'm going to be trimming this a little bit more so that it fits the can. And then I'm going to attach the back piece, okay? And then, of course, this is going to be glued on once we work on the sub a little bit. It's going to be glued to a large piece of rock work, okay? So we're going to work on that next. And it's just going to be like impaled in the rock work with this open end here, so you can kind of reach in and grab objectives and so forth. So we'll see. If things go well, I may actually do the interior of the sub, which actually this kind of terrain piece begs you to do the interior details of the sub as well. All right, so let's get going. Okay, and in order to make a little hatch for the interior of the sub, I cut a round piece of cardboard and then a little bit of wire, and it still has a little bit of hot glue, and then some toothpicks just to give the little cardboard bits here a little bit more interest. And so we're then going to take this and just glue it with a good amount of glue right to the interior of the sub. And I can get a brush in there, so that's not a problem. Okay, try to get it straight. Okay, so the hatch is in there, okay, and I make sure I take my hot glue and kind of texture everything in there. Put a lot of texturing with the hot glue gun. And that just ensures that, you know, you have some nice texture in there to paint, you know, and that represents like algae and fouling organisms. We'll talk about the fouling organisms in another video. So basically my sub it's getting there. Okay, so we're working on the interior of the sub, but a couple of things, a couple of steps that I did here that I want to record. I took old plastic spoons, and I use plastic spoons in many different sci-fi terrain bits. And then I cut the spoons, in order to give the submersible this sort of roundish shape here. It kind of cuts a little bit of that cylindrical shape, right? Adds a little bit of interest to it. And then and the interior, I'm using a vinyl mesh, and this comes, I have this in a big roll. You can get this at a hardware store. And basically this is excellent for making sci-fi grading and all that. So I glued, I put the mesh in there, didn't glue the mesh, but I'm attaching these bulkheads to secure the mesh and also give the illusion of bulkheads. So I'm doing that. And then, of course, to utilize the spoon, all the spoon, what we do, I didn't quite glue that there. What we're going to do is attach these pieces of the spoon here just to give a little more detail to the top of the submersible. Also, for the periscope, I use a thick wire, and I've already glued that in there. Okay, drilled a hole with my Dremel into the water cap and then put the periscope in there. So I'm going to work on some of these surface details, then continue working on the interior of the sub. Now for the interior, what I do is I take these paper towel rolls and I cut them because they're already cylindrical, so there's, you know, they're going to work really well. And I cut them, and I might cut this one. I cut the first one really wide, but I'm going to cut this one a little bit thinner, like so. And then I take one end and I snip the end. And now I have this, you know, cylindrical piece. And then what I do is I just glue it to the interior. I got to straighten out, and then that'll give the illusion of bulkheads. And then with the mesh in the middle there, just gives it some detail. Okay, we could even leave some of this sticking out almost like ribs. right? That kind of will decorate the section here that has broken off. So, all right. Okay, so that concludes part one of this project. All right, here's a sneak peek at the submersible, and it has a nice open interior, so we can put objective markers. Figures even fit here, as you'll see in the next video. So it's very important to plan out your terrain so your models can interact with it. So we're going to add a couple more things to this vehicle, to this terrain piece, and then attach it to a proper base, and then that'll be the end of the terrain. So stay tuned for part two.